Welcome to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. Today I'm going to be sharing a compelling case study of a client's recovery from intense pelvic and back pain after childbirth. This is a client who was suffering from a history of low back pain and a traumatic birth experience. She felt like her pelvis was going to split into two during birth. So, listen into this incredible journey as I share key insights for working with both physical and emotional pain and how these techniques can heal all the way to the heart. Hello, friends. This is Lynn Schulte, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. And this episode, I'm going to be talking about the energy of the birth flow. And Tammy Lynn Kent talks about this in her books and in her courses. And it is so important for the healing of our postpartum moms. And it's one of the indicators that I use to know whether or not possibly there's some trauma being held in the tissues and or the response in the body. And I um, had a client that I just saw this week who came back to see me for a second session. And she felt like in her initial session, she said she felt like her pelvis was going to get split into two. And we did some release work and some trauma release work with that in the first session. And her bones were she had a bilateral splay posterior sacrum and sacral flexion. And she also had a history of low back pain. So she's been having some nerve pain going down her legs. And after seeing her for the first session, she came back for a second session this week. And she said that she was 80% better after that first session, but now she feels like she's back to like 30% better from where she started. And as I evaluated and was working on her, I was tuning into the sacrum. Well, first off, I got drawn into her kidneys. So I was doing a lot of work with the kidneys, and that's where the local listening was taking me, was to her left kidney. And so did some release work there, and the listening stopped or the pull stopped. So then I went to the sacrum, was really feeling a lot of compressive force through that sacrum. And as I was doing that, I asked her, I said, "So have you had any falls?" Because I didn't remember feeling that the first time. She goes, "Oh yeah, silly enough, I went to sit down on a bench with my baby in my arms and I missed the bench." And she landed on her tailbone and sacrum. And I go, "Wow, you landed more on your right side," because that's where I could feel the compression in the bone there. And and then that released and did some work at the lumbosacral junction because she does have a history of disc issues, and then made my way down to the tailbone and the lower sacrum. And as I was working on that, she goes, "Oh, that reproduces the shooting pain down my leg, down the right hamstring area." And so I was just working on that, and I just didn't get a good sense that there was that birth flow. That's what I was checking out is think about mechanically what happens to the sacrum during birth, how that sacrum has to lift backwards into flexion. And as that baby's head is coming through, there's a force backwards on the sacrum. And so when I'm working with my postpartum clients, I want to make sure that there is a good force going anteriorly on that sacrum, that the sacrum can come back and come forward, um, almost in like the scooping mechanism. And I want to make sure that that sacrum's able to do that to help get it out of that sacral flexion pattern. And to me, when that sacrum is not flowing easily and not moving easily anteriorly, and it's resistant to doing that. Remember in another podcast episode, I was talking about over efforting. When we're over efforting, there may be something being held in those tissues. And that's exactly what was happening with this client at that lumbo or at the sacrum coccygeal junction. There was a lot of resistance in there. And so we worked on, so what was going on for you? Well, baby wasn't doing okay. And so then I just started asking questions I said, so I'm just going to make the statement. I want you to just see how it lands in your body. And I asked her, did she feel like that her and her baby weren't going to make it? And she's like, yeah, that really resonates. And so, at first, before I went there, I tried the trauma release statement, and the baby is out and everybody's okay. Neither of those two parts of that statement landed, and so that's what made me inquire more about how she was feeling in that moment in time. As the baby was crowning, baby started decelling, and the doctors were getting concerned, and there was all that fear and worry happening. So we shifted a lot of oh, I can't do this. That's what she was kept saying. It was like I just didn't feel like I could do it. I couldn't do it. And so we shifted that. And then there was some softening in the sacrum and in the tailbone area, and I felt like there was a little bit greater flow. But then I went to her dural tube and was working from the occiput to the sacrum, and the right side was very restricted, and there wasn't a good flow happening. And that's when she said out loud that as the baby was crowning, they were fearing for baby's, life or survival. And that's when I said, so, did it feel like you thought that you or your baby was going to die? And she goes, oh yeah. And I said, so what feels most accurate to you? Is it that you died or that you were about to die? And so we worked on, I think it was about to die, that we shifted that limiting belief. And after then we replanted with it. We made it. We were okay. We survived. We got that implanted and flowing in her body. And then the dural tube, the cranial flow just was flowing so much more beautifully in her body because we got rid of that trauma response. And she was, when she got off the table, she was much more lighter, freer. She sat down, she goes, oh, my back doesn't hurt like it did when I came in. And so that session really helped me to get a better understanding of that flow, of that birth flow through the pelvis is something that I would encourage you all to start feeling for and notice if you can sense in, is there a flow going through that pelvis or does it stop? Does it get stuck somewhere? If it's getting stuck, then we need to work on helping to release that. And then there may be that trauma response being held in those tissues. So please start looking for that and know that that's really what's holding those tissues. I just had a sense as I was working and over efforting with those tissues, like, oh, there's something more being held here. I need to stop that. Let me go back to really getting curious with these tissues and see what's being held there. Okay, so check in for that birth flow. Listen to Tammy Lynn Kent. Read her books. The Wild Mothering book talks a lot about that birth flow. She has a couple of exercises that women can do to help re-pattern and replay the birth field and the birth flow. And it's another objective finding that you can look for and learn how to palpate for. And I tell you, it's highly helpful. All right. So give that a try. Start looking for that. Reach out if you have any questions. I teach more about that birth flow in the the pregnancy postpartum course too. And you can learn how to work with the trauma in the birth healing intensive program. All right. So thanks for listening in, everybody. We'll take care. And here's to smoother births, faster recoveries, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Share this with your colleagues if you found it helpful. Bye-bye. Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code PODCAST50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn Schulte, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.